Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. If you've got kids, you know it's not easy all the time. There's things that crop up. You have questions. You're not really sure how to handle situations from time to time. Who do you ask? You can ask friends and family, but sometimes that kind of runs thin. You need somebody to walk that journey with you. And I found her. And she's a parent coach at Encourage Club. And she's back with Tricia. Welcome. How you doing today?
I am great. How are you?
Very well, very well. And as soon as we start talking, I just get images in my mind of my kids and situations and how I dealt with it and how it might have been so much easier if I had somebody to rely on like you just to bounce something off of. And it runs the gamut. There's so many different situations from sleep, eating, behavior, and all of that. Dysregulation is one. And we're going to talk about that today. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so being dysregulated is when your nervous system is overwhelmed. You are in a stress response. And as adults, we have a lot of life experience and we have a fully developed brain. So we have ways to be able to either change our mindset or we know how to breathe through it. We have ways to kind of calm back down. But our little ones are experiencing the world for the very first time. And sometimes their nervous system gets overwhelmed. They feel stress in situations that might not match their reaction. I have a feeling if anybody listening has had a toddler, they have given them the wrong color of cup to drink out of, and all of a sudden they're on the floor crying. And So that is dysregulation. Those big meltdowns, tantrums, those moments when your child has just flipped their lid and you actually don't know why or what is going on. Like, I didn't know that giving you a red cup instead of a blue cup could ruin your whole day.
Why does that happen with something that, to an adult, a parent seems so insignificant, but your kid just wigged out? Why? Why is that?
Yeah, so there are a couple of different causes. Some of it can just be those overwhelming emotions. Our children don't have the language to express what is going on. Sometimes it can be their sensory processing. So the lights, the sounds, the smells, everything going on around them can contribute to feelings of stress. Sometimes it can be they're too tired or they're hangry. They need to eat more often than we do. And sometimes it can even be the kinds of foods that they're eating, maybe too much sugar or artificial food dyes. Certain dietary things can also contribute to feelings of anxiety or overwhelm, can enhance stress in young children.
So what I'm gathering here from you, Tricia, is it's not just the color of the cup. It's the culmination of all these other things that are going on. The food, whether they slept enough, maybe some other stimulation going on there where it's just like, can't process, dropping to the floor, crying tantrum.
Yes. And as parents, so often we respond to the behavior that we can see. They're kicking, they're hitting, they're crying. We're responding to that behavior. But oftentimes the reason for their dysregulation, the reason for their behavior is all of these other things that we can't see. So we have to be really attuned to our children and prioritize connecting with them so that, it's a little bit easier to know how to respond. And that's what I do for parents. I really just help them go deeper, get curious about what could be contributing to any kind of aggressive behavior or, major meltdowns or dysregulation in their child's nervous system.
You're like CSI Tricia. Yeah, it's like, you're looking for the clues, trying to figure out. And I guess when you work with a parent, maybe track back or trace your steps back to, what went on like an hour ago? How about 3 hours ago? When did they last eat? Let's look at all of these things on the table and then identify maybe one of those that could be pointing, or two, whatever, to the
Yes.
meltdown.
When
Okay.
I work with parents, I just ask a whole lot of questions. We track their sleep, we track their food, we track what's going on in the environment, and then I help parents figure out what aspects can they control. We can't control our kids. We can't control if they throw things at us. We can't control if or when they eat or sleep. We can't control, if they go to the bathroom, in the toilet, or on our new couch. But there are things we can't control. And so that's where I help get curious, put some things kind of on paper, and we experiment with the aspects that we can control.
Every situation is different. Every kid is different. Based on your experience, what is the common thread there when these things crop up? When, let's say your child has a meltdown. Does it trace back to sleep? Does it trace back to food? Is it usually one of those? Usually, again, it could be anything or a combination of a bunch.
I would say the majority of kiddos that I work with, parents that I work with, it actually comes back to their sensory processing. So kids experience sights, sounds, smells, things that they hear. And there's also more than five senses. We all know those five basic senses, but there's the vestibular sense, which is located in your inner ear, and it gives your brain information about where your body's at. If you're moving forward, if you're moving backwards, if you're upside down, if you're fast or slow. And then there is the proprioceptive sense, which is your big muscle movement, jumping, crawling, rolling, kicking, throwing, all of those kinds of things. And then there's the interoceptive sense. That's all of the feelings from the inside of your body, your emotions, your feelings of hunger, the cues inside your body that tell you if you have to go to the bathroom. So kids are experiencing all of these things at the same time. They live in the present moment. And that is how they learn. That's why when a child is dysregulated, you're going to see them probably fall to the ground because their body feels safer there. It gets more sensory input.
Oh,
And
okay.
they're probably going to kick or throw something. Again, that movement is how their emotions are expressed. And so a lot of it is just those kinds of things. Either they didn't get enough movement that day, or possibly they got too much. Maybe they were on a long car ride and they were in a car seat for too long, and then they have a big meltdown once they get home. Or they were at school all day, and all of these things are going on all day long out of their control. And the second they get in the car or the second they get home, it all comes overflowing out. And so I think a lot of it is actually just parents not understanding how their kids are experiencing the world, all of these things going on at the same time. And all of that information in your developing brain can sometimes overflow.
You make it very clear. And this is the stuff that we forget. They're processing all this new stuff all at once. So it's like, overload. And yeah, they're fortunately they are living in the present. Many of us adults don't, but that's also problematic because if we're as adults not living, we can dissect some of those. Well, you know what? I can take care of that later. I can take care of this now. I'm going to deal with that in a couple of minutes. For a child, it's all at once. That's a
Yes.
lot. That's a big load.
And especially for our children who are neurodivergent, meaning they might be autistic or have ADHD, sensory processing differences, things like that. So as I'm here right now, I can hear the birds outside my window chirping, but I know that that's not the most important information that my brain needs to take in right now. I'm talking to you. So I can, not ignore the birds and pay more attention to this conversation here, where a child with any of those issues doesn't know, their brain doesn't know yet which information is most important to pay attention to. And so, yeah, they're taking it all in at once. That's why we say so often our kids can't focus or they don't listen, or, but really it's just because they haven't learned yet which information coming into their body is the most important to pay attention to, and which is the most important for survival. So sometimes they pay attention to something that their brain thinks this is really important. Our survival is at stake when it might not. Could be just, false alarm.
Yeah, like the ice cream man.
Yeah.
My survival does exist on that. When I hear the ice cream man, I run. Um, Interesting. This is, so much of this we don't realize as parents,
No, we
you
think
know?
our kid's just being a brat.
Yes. Yes. Or maybe, yeah, they're learning things for the first time and that can be a little bit of a challenge. But when you stack all this stuff up, it's really a lot for a little human being to deal with. So when you work with somebody, you dissect it, you kind of figure it out, and then do you give remedies,
Yeah. Strategies
strategies?
for how to respond.
Okay.
Um, so I'm not going to fix your child. I'm not going to change them. I'm not going to promise you they'll never have a tantrum again or a meltdown again. But what I will do is equip you for how to respond in those moments, how to focus on what you can control. So often we tell our kids, take a deep breath. Um, but how often have any of us actually taught our child what that means? We think that we're just born knowing how to breathe, which we kind of are. But when we're really stressed out, it doesn't always come naturally. So I help parents practice blowing bubbles or blowing, like, those little fuzzy pom pom, like craft things. You can play games by blowing them across the table or blowing on a pinwheel, and practice that motion of taking a deep breath in a concrete way when they're calm, when you're just having fun, when you're, having a good time. That way, when your child is really upset, you can just pretend you're blowing bubbles and they'll get it. Like you're doing that action with them. They have to borrow that information from you. Borrow the calm is what I say.
Hmm. It's almost like a cue, pinwheel. Like let's
Yep.
say, having a meltdown. Pinwheel time, pinwheel time. Let's
Yep.
do it.
And you can just pretend, and you as the parent can start doing it and then see if the child will join in. One of my own children, I usually just scoop him up and put his head right on my heart because that is a regulating sensation. And then
Hmm.
I start breathing deeply. And then eventually he joins. That's called co-regulation. When he's dysregulated, I stay calm and lend those strategies to him. Um, and so, yeah, just teaching parents some of those easy ways. Another way to teach breathing is, holding out your hand and inhale as you trace up and exhale as you trace down. Inhale as you trace up,
Hmm.
exhale. That is another very visual, concrete way that children can practice breathing with you. Another thing that is super easy for a lot of kids is squeezing your finger and your thumb together and doing that with every finger. You have to concentrate on just moving your fingers, which is challenging for kids. And then the squeezing gets that information of your body. So it can kind of bring you back to your body almost when you're, in this state of overwhelm or stress.
I heard also even just to rub your fingers together
Mm-hmm.
can be helpful, or just touch a fabric, just
Yep. Or doing both
right.
hands together like this.
Hmm. This is stuff we don't know, as parents. The kid didn't come with this in the manual. I didn't see this page in there.
No,
Yeah.
why
Hmm.
not? Gosh.
I don't know. What are some other things that we should be mindful of? And it's so common with younger children, the meltdown, when you got to deal with that.
Yeah. So, um, one question I get asked is, how do I know if my child is dysregulated or if they're kind of just being a kid? So we really expect ages 3 and under to have a lot of these tantrums. And that is because they're still learning language. The world is going at a fast pace. They're not in control of their schedule. Usually they're not in control of most things they're relying solely on their attached caregiver to meet their needs. So 3 and under, a lot of these tantrums are pretty typical. And a tantrum is usually when you can give them whatever they want and the tears stop. That's how you know, like they're just trying to use their entire body to communicate something with you. Now, a meltdown or dysregulation, that is actual nervous system dysregulation, that is usually much bigger. This is happening more with our kids that are older. It's lasting a long time. They're crying for, more than 5 minutes at a time. Sometimes their eyes are dilated, or they're really aggressive, or they might be sobbing this like that like dysregulated breathing, shallow breathing. Those are all clues that the prefrontal cortex, the thinking, reasonable, rational part of their brain, has gone completely offline. When they're in that state, no amount of talking to them is going to bring them out of that. You can give them what you think they want, and they're still crying. So those are the moments when we really need to co-regulate, figure out how to stay calm ourselves, model those strategies for them, and just kind of ride the wave with them. They're not being rational. So trying to scold or punish or lecture or rationalize in those moments is only going to escalate the behavior.
You said 5 minutes before, let's say a meltdown. Would we say that if it lasts more than 5 minutes, all right, we got to look a little deeper here. Maybe there's something else going on.
It's not a hard and fast rule. We have some pretty strong-willed kids that will cry until they get what they want.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of a general, usually if you have a toddler that is kicking, crying, screaming, if you give them what they need, they're gonna, recover from that pretty quickly. But if you have a child where these meltdowns are lasting multiple times a day, they're lasting longer periods of time, everyone's just completely exhausted and on edge, that is probably a clue that your child's nervous system is dysregulated. Now, there, like I said before, many reasons for that. But sometimes that would be where I would recommend seeking some support from a pediatrician, special education team, something like that. Just making sure that medically everything is okay.
How about the situation where your kid has figured out, oh, if I cry and cause a tantrum, I am getting ice cream. I'm going to do that again. How do you identify that? How do you deal with that?
Yes. So this isn't a one size fits all answer. There are different kinds of children and different styles of parenting. So when I work with parents, we really dig deeper into, what the parents are comfortable with. I think oftentimes kids need an adult that is going to set boundaries. So I'm not saying every time your child cries, you need to give in. However, most kids do the best they can with the information they have. So if your child is crying every single time because they want ice cream and you're saying no, like this is happening, let's say every day, they want ice cream for breakfast every day. And every day this is happening. If you give in one day and then not the next day, they don't know what to expect. So part of it is just setting adequate expectations. Part of it is clearly communicating and clearly setting boundaries. And then the last piece is just affirming your child's feelings. Like, I know you really wanted ice cream for breakfast. Ice cream is so delicious, and I completely understand why you want it for breakfast. But we want to put some protein in your body so that it feels better for the day. My job is to fuel your body with food that will help it, be the best, be the safest. So let's make a plan for when we can get ice cream the next time.
Is it okay to say ice cream is a dessert or a treat and frame it that way? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, just setting those boundaries of, when is ice cream okay? When is it not? Maybe it's not okay for breakfast every day. But again, you have to know your child. If you have a child who has an aversion to food and literally will not eat anything else because they are autistic and the only texture that they are allowing is ice cream, you need to keep your child alive somehow, right? So there's nuances here. My my own child had a cheeseburger and french fries for breakfast today.
That's me. Yeah. And you know what? Ice cream's not the worst for you. There is protein. You getting a lot, little too much sugar, but it is what it is. So it's not the worst. It's not the worst.
Yeah.
Um,
I would say though, it's kind of a misconception that kids are manipulative, especially if they're younger. If they're younger than 8, they're probably not manipulating you on purpose.
wow.
They're just acting out because they don't know what to expect, or they feel out of control, or they feel disconnected from you.
Interesting. Instant feedback, steve@gmail.com is how you can reach us. We have Becky checking in from Searsport, Maine. She says, love your talk today. My daughter is 8, and I find that she doesn't tell the truth or own up to it. I'm very frustrated and don't know how to handle it.
Yes, this is a great question. Okay, so 2 things. Number 1, around age 4 and 5, kids have a developmental leap in their brain development where lying becomes a new skill. They are able to hold the truth and what they wish would happen together in their brain at the same time. This is actually exciting because
Wow.
now they can forward think a little bit and understand consequences of behavior. Another developmental leap happens at age 8.
Ah,
They're all of a sudden able to have really abstract thinking, and sometimes lying at age 8 is just that. They're expressing what they wish could happen. Another reason a child could lie at that age would be out of fear. They are afraid they're going to get in trouble, get scolded, not be safe by telling the truth. So
hmm.
those are 2 little things. Now, finally, along with the fear, another reason a child would possibly lie is if they are in this stress response, they feel backed into a corner and they say whatever comes to mind. They're not using their thinking brain. They're actually in this kind of shut down stress response where they're just like spitting something out because they're responding out of fear or stress.
Wow. So it's your job as a parent to kind of figure that all out, to analyze it or uh, seek your help. Because,
Yes.
you know,
So here's an example of my own child yesterday. So I also have an 8-year-old. Well, he'll be 8 next week. And I gave him a direction yesterday. And I thought that he had followed through on the thing that I asked. And then today I reminded him again that he needed to do that same thing today. And he goes, uh, Mom, so yesterday I didn't exactly do it just like you told me. I did this instead. And it just all came out. And instead of scolding him for not obeying what I asked the first time, I said, thank you for being honest with me. That took a lot of courage for you to be honest. Now, which decision are you going to make today? And then we just left it at that.
hmm. I love that approach because you're putting it on the child and they feel like they're more in control in making a decision, how it's going to go. And they know what the consequences are. So if they're old
Yeah.
enough, they're going to pick the
I
right
reminded
choice.
him of the decision that I hoped he had made, the
Hmm.
responsible one.
Right,
And he
right.
said, Mom, I think I can be responsible today.
Ah, and that had to feel empowering, for a
Yeah.
child.
I tell parents this all the time. You can choose to parent for immediate obedience in this moment, or you can choose to parent in the long term to actually shape an adult who can think and make decisions and understand their actions have consequences and, be a self-sufficient, independent adult in society. Parenting the long game is much harder. It's really hard. Because you have to have some forward thinking and you have to reflect, what is my parenting goal? What am I trying to accomplish? And is that most important right now in this moment, or can I let it go?
Right. Right. And you know what? That comes down to pick your battles, at that point. We're out of time. I had another question. I'm look over, I'm like, whoa,
Went
okay.
so fast.
Yeah. So if somebody, Tricia, wants to work with you, we've got a parent, maybe frustrated, not really sure how to handle things, even between their kids. It starts with just going to your website, right?
Yes. So my website is encourageclub.org. And you can also find me on socials at encourage.club. That's ENCOURAGE
And you have different programs for parents. If you have, let's say, 2 or 3 kids, does it matter?
No, you can come to me we can problem solve more than one child.
Okay. Yeah. I was just wondering if you're on one program, can you also plug other kids into that? And
Yeah.
yeah.
So I have two offers. I have a 1 month offer and a 3 month offer. If we're going to be kind of dissecting multiple kids and, multiple scenarios, probably the 3 month offer would be most beneficial, because then we have more time to really dive deep into each child's motivations and intentions and struggles. And then I can, as problems pop up, coach you through how to apply the information that I give.
And I believe we said last time we talked that you're available. So if something comes up and wow, let me just reach out to her, with an email or a text or whatever it is. You get back to them reasonable amount of time and try to help them figure it out.
Yes, absolutely. And when you do work with me, we have our own communication app that we talk back and forth, and you
Okay.
can leave me messages and I will always respond within 24 hours
Oh,
when
fantastic.
we're working together. So
Yeah.
even the sleep people, I get middle of the night messages and respond in the morning. And yeah.
Awesome. Tricia, you have the answers. Like you're great. You really are. And your passion shows for what you do. You just want to help people. And it's almost like you think like a kid.
Yes, I just want to advocate for the kids who are misunderstood and help parents better understand their children.
Awesome. Thank you for being here and
Thank
definitely
you.
look forward next time we get together.
All right. Thanks so much.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.